All right. We are live. We are here. And we're doing something a little bit out of the ordinary, which is a bit of a callback to when this podcast channel really started getting going. That's right. We're talking about the Game of Thrones Dynasty League for a couple of minutes here. You'll have a couple folks who are listening to this who will have their ears perk up and say, the what league? So a little bit of history. Before GMs came together, probably the main first league that a lot of the group that started this league were in together outside of the Dream League was the Game of Thrones Dynasty League that came from D96 and some of the folks there. That group then went on to spawn a bunch of other league ideas like Marvel versus DC, Cleveland Browns Lovable Losers League, Jeremy's Raz League, and of course one of those ideas, of course, turned into the GM's League. So there's a bit of a warm spot in the podcast heart for this league. And they're going through a bit of a crisis at the moment. So I figured we've got the podcast. There's still Game of Thrones flags hanging from the top of the podcast channel here. So we owe them check-in every once in a while. So go ahead and talk about something that happened there with that special league format and get some thoughts from sort of a good diverse set of owners who have been commissioners in leagues, some may have been in the league before, things of that nature, different taxi theft leagues, see what they think about what the right thing to do here is, and help them through the current situation and then advice going forward. So like I told some of the folks pre-pod, I respect the heck out of this group. I think we've got a great group of owners. So kind of throwing ideas like this and tricky situations off of a sounding board is always a good way to do things and come up with some fun ideas to fix some problems. So after my 2-minute lead in, we've got RJ of the Eagles, we've got the Panthers, we've got Chris of the Bengals, Brendan of the Giants, and of course Broncos Bill. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
Fantastic. Good. Can't wait to hear about this.
No, you've built it up, and you even teased it earlier in the day. So I think we're gonna have all-time viewership numbers.
Right now, we're at the strong value of 0, but we are potentially, going towards and applying towards a larger viewership than just our normal 32. So who knows what the overall YouTube numbers will be for this episode? It might be our most viewed. So a little bit of background about the Game of Thrones Dynasty League. It is a 32-team, 2-copy league, so 16-player equivalent, Superflex, that is split into an Ice division and a Fire division. So Song of Ice and Fire, the 2 conferences against each other, things of that nature. A couple other thematic things in there. The one of note here is what they call the Iron Price, which is the fun name for taxi theft. So basically, based off of the average value that the players get taken at, they are assigned a first, second, or third round rookie pick theft price based off of where they went in the rookie draft. They can go on the taxi squad for their rookie, second, and third years. However, each year after their rookie year, they lose a round of value for their theft price. The thought is to disincentivize teams from placing stud players on the rookie or on the taxi squad in fear of having them stolen. So what has happened here is in every new season for this league, since a couple of owners have left, they have used a dispersal draft to draft the new players and draft the new players for each of the teams. They did that, and a couple teams put players on taxi squads as eligible even before the rookie draft. Rookie draft happens, and values get updated for taxi theft this year. Team that is new to the league and did not fully understand the bylaws left Garrett Wilson and Travis Etienne on his taxi squad. So for the low price of a 2025 second and third round pick, a competitive team added Garrett Wilson and Travis Etienne to his team because the new owner did not understand the rules and let the 24 hours go by without promoting them and saving them from theft. So the issue at play here is what is done with the players. Do they go to the team that stole them and sort of mess up the competitive balance of the league? Are they put up in an auction type format where they have to be traded, but almost a sweepstake style? Do they go back to the original team and the owner is booted, or some other creative approach here towards sort of fixing the situation? So that's a little bit of explanation. I'll pause for questions and clarifying to kind of help make sure everyone understands what's going on.
How new is this owner? Like, has it been a couple months, or like they're pretty fresh?
So the dispersal was probably in the May to March to April timeframe. The rookie draft was in the May timeframe, and then they just opened Taxi Theft, I want to say about a week ago.
Okay.
Does the Taxi Theft have the same laws that we do here, where you have to notify through email with commissioner on it and such, or do they just post it somewhere?
There's a thread that you have to post to. I'm not sure if there's an email component or not.
Is the new owner active?
Someone active in chat. But again, just did not understand this rule, did not understand what was going on. I think he saw that the theft was happening, but didn't realize he had to do something about it.
So I probably have a pretty controversial response to this so far, but I will let other questions be asked if there are any.
What's the strategy for putting these guys on Taxi? Like, what was the reason?
It's a 25-player roster and 5 taxi spots. So during the draft, sometimes players will go there, kind of similar to why some people will put taxi-eligible people during our drafts on roster on the taxi squads to create roster space as they move pieces around.
Has the new owner given any reason as to why he actually put those two on the taxi squad, considering that they're not names that should be on taxi squads?
You just put them there after the dispersal draft and had not activated them, just to kind of make sure he had the roster space available for the rookie draft.
But the dispersal draft was 3 months ago.
Right. So again, plenty of opportunity to promote them.
Right.
So I don't think there's any dispute here of, hey, these guys shouldn't be on the taxi squad in the first place. The Taxi Theft is there to make sure they're not on the taxi squad. So it worked as intended. But again, instead of getting the intended response, it's now led to sort of a league tilting situation. We're now an owner that had Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Saquon Barkley, and a couple other pretty good pieces. Now added, like I said, Garrett Wilson and Travis Etienne for next to nothing, and is now a prohibitive favorite in that division.
What is the stealing owner? What are their thoughts? I mean, I feel like I'm curious, like, to know how they want this handled. I assume they just want the players, but like, are they understanding that this is?
Yeah. So he's understanding. His response was obviously, he said it was he definitely busted a rosterbation nut as soon as the theft went through. But he recognizes what this does to the league, what this does to the thieved owners team, especially as a new owner, and wants to come to sort of an equitable solution here, and is open to ideas. So, like I said, I offered in chat that I'd bounce it around this group and see what people think.
I think we should jump into some takes.
Cool. Bill, you were the first one to mention yours, so get start spicy.
So I've been in situations like this before as a commissioner. I don't know how the bylaws are written for this league, this Game of Thrones league, but in all my bylaws, I always had to input, decisions are guided based off the guidelines of the bylaws, but in the effort of everyone having fun, they can be overturned at any time. This is a situation where my immediate response is that guy's an idiot and deserves to get punished for it and lose these guys. But in doing so, I know that the end result of this is the league will end, right? Like, it'll just end. So I think that in a lot of situation here, you should definitely let those two work it out between themselves. The league should stay out of it entirely, except for the commissioner. There should be no guarantees that the players go back, but the owner that claimed them has to pay more than a 2 and a 3. Those two are obviously worth firsts plus each. They have to pay more, but it's between the two of them to figure it out. Otherwise, you're going to find a situation where the league is going to end within 2 years, probably.
All right. So your suggestion is they've got to work out some kind of equitable solution to allow the exchange to take place, and whether it's some kind of additional compensation or something like that to come out to a fairer deal.
Yeah, and the league has to stay out of it entirely. Like whatever happens out of it, and the commission has to sign off on it.
Okay. All right. That's an idea. What else are we thinking?
If a player is attempted to be claimed off a taxi squad, no other teams can put a claim in? It's whoever first come, first serve, or what's?
It's similar to this league. It's the first team to put the claim in, who has the compensation gets them. However, during that time, other trades can be made. So say I'm stealing a player from your team for a third, and Bill is willing to give you a second to actually move them. You can accept Bill's offer for a second instead of waiting to have them lost for a third.
So nobody offered more than a 2 and a 3?
Other offers may have come in, but those were the taxi theft prices, and that's what they got stolen for.
This new owner is an idiot. Like, this is one of those situations where I'm like, you say you read the bylaws, but you clearly didn't. And after 3 months, if you haven't clarified that very specific thing, knowing how common it may be, you deserve the punishment you get. But again, I understand it's like a league-ending situation, so you want to avoid it at all costs. But
yeah, I don't know if the whole league needs to be punished for
Right.
negligence.
right, but the owner's an idiot, and like he probably won't last very long anyway.
I mean, was he an idiot, or was he just inactive during this 24-hour period?
I mean,
Again, don't have the full story on that one. Yeah. So again, may have read the bylaws but didn't understand this. Not clarifying is not an excuse, but again, I think it's definitely one of those, like you guys are saying.
If the only notification that's given is a message board post, I can definitely see how someone would miss that as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Versus email, because the amount of times I look at a message board is shockingly low during season, and then you compare that to off season. Now I'm never looking at that.
I mean, is that why our contracts and stuff never get extended quickly?
No, I don't do the extensions.
That's part of the reason.
So I can so that part I can see it being missed. I agree the players probably shouldn't have been there in the first place after the rookie draft.
Yeah, like there should probably be even a qualifier to the taxi squad like claiming process. Like you should not be allowed to put those level of names on your taxi squad, like just to avoid this generally. And I know that there's like levels to that are like, that's like league control over an individual team and stuff like that. And I get that, but like the guy had it on there for months apparently, and the claim process just came open or whatever. But like, I don't know. This is a rough one because like he should be punished, but the whole league is punished in this process.
Well, it sounds like this guy's had these people on his taxi squad for a couple of months at this point, and he hasn't taken any extra time to read the bylaws, to learn anything else, to study anything else, and whether or not he got an email notification or not. It's been so much time and he hasn't done it. I'm also kind of surprised that the commissions haven't said anything to him. I know it's the off season, this, that, and the other, but those are pretty eye-opening names. Or at least someone would have. It's one of those things where if that happened in one of my leagues, most of my leagues outside of this one, I have a lot of friends in it, and if something like that was to happen, there'd be text messages. Hey man, have you noticed this? And we send each other messages, and this feels like just not that active of an owner, and it seems like it's a very league-altering trade. I think it's probably just to find a replacement owner and revert the trade and make sure that everybody knows the taxi rules. I've also been in a lot of leagues where it's kind of like Bill said, there's certain names that are just straight up not droppable. Like there's non-drop settings, and you go in and you can't just cut a Drake London because you want to cut a Drake London all of a sudden on a win.
Yeah, I'd be very curious about like what the owner's like reaction was to the transactions being processed. Like, was he surprised and thus he wasn't really following along, or was he like, "Cool, I got these picks"? Because that kind of changes my takeaway. But if I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and he just wasn't paying attention, I don't see the problem with just reverting the transactions, and I don't think he needs to be kicked because like it's going to be just as hard to find someone new to replace and go through the whole thing. Like this is maybe a slap on the wrist of, you know, you should know better. Next time we're not gonna protect you. But I don't think that he needs to be removed from the league unless, you know, his actions after these transactions have been detrimental to the process.
This isn't a removal thing. This is just idiocy. But this is also one of those things where like he is not going to get his players back probably because it's just, I don't know. I feel like that's more of a problem. Like reversing it entirely is more of a problem than just finding fair common ground between the two teams. Even knowing that the team is a contender and he's going to probably win the title because of the deal, right? Like even knowing that, I think it's more. I think it's more controversial to undo the whole thing.
I don't know. That feels like it's way too much commissioner intervention. You can still have these guys, but you have to give a better trade package. For me, it should either be it goes through and it's a slap on the hand, which I wouldn't do because I would just make all the others angry, or I would remove the guy who made the incident happen for just, you know, not being knowledgeable of what was going on in the league, especially for that long of a time period. Like I feel like that probably just makes all parties the happiest.
Yeah,
because he caused the situation.
So I was reading back through the the chat after it went through. So basically, other owners as it went through said, "Holy shit, that can't be real. That's league altering." The owner that got it realized that it was ridiculous that it went through, considering the valuation. And the new owner came in and said, "Look, he completely owned up to it." So I understand, you know, it's not how you want things to do. I think calling the guy an idiot's a bit harsh, but frankly, he owned up to it at least and said, "Look, I should have read the bylaws. I should have paid more attention. Clearly, I didn't understand something, and it's on me." He's willing to accept whatever the decision is, I think, at this point.
Is there any rules about trading back?
No, nothing like that in that league.
I mean, then the easiest scenario here is if the new owner knows he messed up and the winning owner of this knows that it's ridiculous that he got this for this price, he should give it back and they should just negotiate between themselves. It's like the easiest thing. And I don't know why it's an argument in that league if it's like obvious between those two teams. They already know that this should never have happened.
Right. But again, you don't want to punish a guy. Again, is it a forced negotiation that, okay, you have to come to some agreement of what the trade is? Is it, okay, you guys try and make a deal in the first place? Kind of what's the status of that? Because, you know, there's a wide range of, hey, we know it's a, you know, poor valuation, but hey, I was an active owner. I stole these guys fair and square. I should get a bonus for being an active owner and doing, you know, what the league allows you to do, but at the same time, understand that this is way too much, and I still want the players, though.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard. Again, this is not a situation where there's arguments or big controversy or stuff like that. It's just one of those things that, again, I think for most of us in our leagues where you have taxi theft that's usually active enough that something like this never happens. So it's a threat of this happening that keeps, you know, these players from being there. And it's rare that, or, you know, unheard of that it actually followed through. So it's the old nuclear option of, okay, there's a nuke in the air. Now what the hell do we do? So, all right, I think. Sorry, any kind of closing thoughts?
The more and more I hear, like, I kind of just want to say, Let him have one of the players.
I'd say just revert the whole thing. Go back to what it was for step one. And if the owner that did the thievery wants something, or if the owner that wasn't paying attention needs to be punished in some manner, have them lose a pick in the upcoming draft, or have them forfeit a pick as compensation. But I wouldn't. Yeah, I think most of us are in agreement that 2 players can't just go over for essentially nothing in terms of league health.
That sounds like the most reasonable thing.
As someone with 25 second and third round picks to maneuver, they are certainly valuable and not nothing.
All right. Well,
Proven
reason
in this league.
Yeah. Back to the reason people actually tune into this stuff. We'll move back over to the GMs. Again, appreciate your guys taking the time to kind of comment on this. I know that league will appreciate it too, except maybe for the new owner, the number of guys you guys called him a schmuck or an idiot or things like that. But hopefully his skin is thick enough and he can laugh at the whole situation. Because again, it is something, like I said, that between that league and the experience there and the league here and the experience here, like, we've never seen something like this happen. So it's a question of, okay, a concept in leagues is a threat. What do you do when the threat actually has to be acted upon? So, all good. Anyways, let's move over to what trades have happened since last time. This was kind of the topic of conversation. Didn't really give anyone time to prep anything else other than talking about this in trades. So we'll keep it to the fun stuff here. So, let's see. Our last podcast was last week on Tuesday. I think it was the Van Jefferson trade was discussed last time, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Nope.
Okay. So, thank you for clarifying. Are you sure? Because I thought that
You guys talked about this. I went back and watched the video.
yeah,
Did we? Okay.
because
Yep.
because that happened, and then the next trade happened afterwards. So
Somebody mentioned I got Van for free, and then we went through and talked about Chase Brown back, or we, not me, you guys talked about Chase has upside, and I think it ended up being a decision where you guys thought it was fair.
Oh yeah, it was 12 p.m.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's really happened of noteworthy news to add to that's just the fact that Mixon,
signed,
restructured. So yeah,
Yeah.
Brown's considerable value got.
Yeah,
capped.
but that was known. Like, he was still on the team. If he wasn't going to be restructured, he wouldn't have been there. I think that trade was uneven.
okay. Okay, so we talked about that last time, so we'll go ahead and move on. So 7 new trades since our last pod. Smaller one with less sexy names, but Bill and I swapped Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Donta Foreman. I built up my Bears backfield. Bill gets the former Dynasty darling and Kansas City running back who may have fallen out of favor here.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's like the guy in Kansas City right now because Pacheco's hurt and McKinnon is, I don't even know if he's signed yet.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so like he's just one of the top 2 guys right now. Had nothing to do with anything. More than anything, it was cap clearing purposes with potential. So
Yeah, I think as a result, Bill cleared about $8 million in cap.
yeah, roughly.
Yeah, they also have Deneric Prince,
Yeah, and
an interesting, just undrafted, but yeah, it's no big trade.
Yep. But then bigger running back trade happening. Pierre Strong getting swapped for Richie Grant and the Colts 25 third-round pick.
Is that bigger?
Yes.
We sure?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
As in
The
there was
Ducks
one extra
even agree
piece
with that.
involved, I guess.
Sorry, say that again, Bill. I apologize. I was commenting on all the Ducks.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah,
Holly, can you hear season quackers?
Who's got the flock of ducks?
That's me. I have 2 ducks. No, I'm sitting out of the pool. No, I got, yeah.
When you hear about the peanut gallery, now we've got the parade of ducks. I don't know. I think, the plan always with the New England backfield is take a look at who's in the backfield and buy whoever you can for the cheapest. If it's really just Ramondre right now, then maybe Pierre Strong is absolutely worth it. And hey, I was a fan of Strong last year coming out. So if anyone's going to be a hit in Belichick's system, someone like Strong could be it. That said, though, I mean, a third and Richie Grant, I think Strong went for a third. Seems a bit rich to me.
Yeah, so I drafted him with the 228. I flipped him to Bill. Bill sent him somewhere else. Oh, Goose had him. And then I got him back from Goose for a third. And then, I flipped him before he ever played another snap for a third and a safety. So I'm happy with it.
You wouldn't have made the trade if you weren't happy with it.
I like Strong a lot. Like Mike said, I was a fan of him last year as well. Probably a little bit rich for him, but I think he's going to have the number 2 job there. So yeah, little bit of an overpay to get the running back, but now that he's got him, I don't know. I like the trade. I wanted to grab Strong from Colts in a different trade that happened, and I knew it wasn't going to work. So yeah, I'm a fan of the guy.
All right. Moving right along. Some more post-pod fireworks. Bill going around turning Clyde Edwards-Helaire before he even gets to the Broncos compound, redirects him back to New York. Helaire, Deonta Johnson, and Pat Freiermuth for Devonta Smith and Juwan Johnson. Does Bill have any, except for TJ Watt, is Bill out of Steelers at this point? I'm kind of concerned. I think maybe
I have the Steelers kicker.
I'll be honest, I was a little worried that you might have been taken hostage.
No. But yes, you're correct. I only have TJ. I have Minka. I have Minka as well, and Mark Robinson on my taxi.
Okay, so you're still flush with Steelers. Everything's okay.
I feel pretty good.
All right. How do people, speaking of feeling good, how do we feel about Bill picking up Devonta Smith in this deal?
I like this trade.
I like it too. I mean, Devonta's clearly the best player in the deal, value wise. This is another trade. I was just mad about the process. If you're gonna move like a top 20 dynasty asset, post in the fucking trade bait so see what kind of offers you can get.
Who are you talking about as the piece that you're upset about?
You did not sell a top 20 dynasty asset. You acquired one, so not you.
Well, Pat Freiermuth was a top 20 dynasty asset.
Absolutely not.
No, it's not.
I would take the Jet side of this trade. I mentioned in chat when it happened, but it wouldn't be by much. I think this is a very fair trade.
Again, it wasn't a value thing. It was just a process thing. This is the same thing that I was mad about when James got Walker.
Walker.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, he wasn't seeking it out. I literally just randomly approached him. I was like, "Hey, you selling Smith?" And he's like, "It would take this and this."
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, if I get approached by someone like you coming to me, Broncos, I'm not gonna stop the negotiation if I find a deal I like and then try to fish for another one from the rest of the league. That's a good way to kill the current combo.
Yeah.
So I see why this went the way it did.
Yeah. My big concern with it was losing Pat, because like it's not very often you find a sub 25-year-old top, you can I'll just say top 10 tight end that's going to be around forever.
The team just drafted a replacement.
They drafted a third string run blocker.
Yeah.
That is
who's going to be in every red zone package and torching his touchdown totals.
So he's going to be in the red zone and on special teams as a blocker. The tight ends. So at the moment, again, I know training camp can change it. I know that is possible. At the moment, Pat is number 1 and will stay there, and then Connor Hayward is 2, and he should stay there, but we don't know. They're doing the weird like half half tight end fullback thing with him. Over the
That's
past week.
you don't have to name drop Connor. That's fine.
No, it's not even that. But like the red zone packages are going to consist of Pat Frymuth and George Pickens primarily, and then Darnell will be in there in sub packages because he's 6'8".
He's 6'8". He can run, and when he got the ball in his hands in Georgia, he looked good. He's not someone to sleep on. But the bigger thing to me is just Pittsburgh's got a lot of mouths to feed.
Oh yeah,
fantasy-wise, and
For
it's
sure. The offense-
it's all going to go by Pickett's growth. If Pickett doesn't grow, there's going to be a lot of disappointed owners of fantasy assets in Pittsburgh. But if he grows, there's going to be a lot of very happy people.
Yeah, no, I agree. The offense, Canada's offense is not necessarily suited for this offense. But generally speaking, I am not worried about Darnell Washington cutting into Pat whatsoever. And Chris, I have another trade for processing, please.
Oh, good Lord.
All right, I guess we're going to be doing multiple things or a few more talks after this. Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with Chris. If somebody comes for an asset and I like the deal, I would hope that I already had the player on the trade block. But, it's a tough situation because you've got trade block users in this league who have literally everything listed. I probably fall into that group because I think anything of value that someone want to trade for is on my trade block right now. And you have people who have kind of the things they're only actually willing to trade. So the people who are willing to make the trade if their price is met, or the people who are actually shopping the things on their trade block. So if somebody comes to something off my trade block and it meets my price or what I'm looking for, then yeah, I'm probably not going to shop it the entire league because my price has been met, so I should make the deal. And if I start shopping, and at that point, it's almost like, well, why'd you quote me a price if you weren't going to sell it to me? Which is a good way to get people to stop sending you offers. Which I don't know. Maybe at this point, it was the Jets. Has had enough offers this offseason that he maybe should have done that. But he got his price that he wanted for a player and moved him. So I don't hate it. And I come down on I'd rather have Devonta than the pieces, but I can see either side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just one last note on that. That's kind of a weird thing to me. He's moved Garrett Wilson and he's moved Devontae Smith this offseason. And it really leaves his last premier receiver as young premier receiver. Like Deontay's still fairly young, but he's getting up there fast. But at least this last one is Jamo.
He's got a fun wide receiver group. I haven't actually looked at it here. Like it's all hype and potential. But you got Hyatt, Mingo, Tony, Jameson Williams, and then Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, like fun. But it's interesting that he did the deal. Because he absolutely needed running back depth. Clyde is not necessarily that, but interestingly, it's like the only rostered running back that he has right now. And then Pat for Juwan is obviously its own upgrade in its own way.
What's going to be interesting here is the Jets doesn't control his first next year right now. Yep. So to your point, there's some wait and see on some of these players on his running back room. He's very youth heavy in his receiver room, and he invested both heavy draft capital and large cap portions into his defense this year. At some point, does he start to kind of feel the squeeze of, well, Fournette's still not on a team, and Edwards-Helaire is dropping down the depth chart potentially, and say, okay, I'm going to go shopping for a running back, or Williams is out for a while and these guys aren't emerging. Do I need to convert some of this rookie promise into more production because I don't control my first? So it's been a really interesting build. We really, I think, gave Jets a lot of love during the draft on how he's gone about building this. But since I think Texans owns his pick next year, it'll be interesting to see how he continues to evolve this team to try and make the most of his year this year.
It doesn't look.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, nope. I insist.
My big thing is just his receiver room. Like, just if you look at it historically, Jalen Hyatt's going to a crowded Giants room that Daniel Jones does not throw a lot of touchdown passes. He does not throw for a lot of yards. I don't expect him to exponentially grow this year. So Hyatt's not that interesting to me. You got Bryce Young, who's a rookie down in Carolina. The rookie QB passing touchdown record's like 28 or 32 touchdowns. That, you spread that all throughout. There's just not a lot of potential fantasy production for me out of that entire group, just for all their situations they're in. They're all good pieces to have. I just don't necessarily get excited for all those names together for this year.
See, I disagree. I think I don't think it's going to be a great year for it, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Like, looking at the wide receivers, I see Deontay and, at least early in the season, Odell Beckham being, his floor guys, the PPR receivers. Tony and Jameson, when Jameson comes back from suspension, should be like the quintessential best ball receivers, like the big boom bust. And then you just wait on Hyatt and Mingo to see if either of them hit. And if he hits on, two of the four young receivers out of Hyatt, Mingo, Tony, and Jameson, he's got a really good wide receiver room then. And then if needed, if the year's going really well, flip one of them from a running back. And I like what he's put into his defense with Jack Campbell and Will Anderson and Ojulari. Like, it should be a fun year to see how the rookies do. Like, this is a fun, like, when I look at it, like, I would be excited to own this team if I had been rebuilding and, like, I've gotten it to this point. Like, it's just a fun little crew.
Yeah, Jets has a lot of fun. I agree. He has potential for huge increased value next year too.
Well, yeah, everybody loves draft picks, and he had the most first rounders. So it's a fun team, but it's high risk.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's looked at like the Titans did last year, right? Like, he knows he's not necessarily going to win it all, so he wants to build it the way he wants to, but he's doing it before week 10.
All right. Good discussion, guys. But speaking of having fun, Chris had a little fun post podcast too. Actually, I guess these happened the next morning in pretty quick succession. So I don't know if they got agreed to post podcast or early in the morning, just kind of sat there or what. But picking up Jaylen Warren from the Cardinals for his 25 second round pick, and then swapping Khalil Herbert, Josh Allen, the linebacker, and John Johnson for Matt Breida, Kenneth Gainwell, and Kwity Paye. So congratulations, Chris, for getting the best player in that deal in Kwity Paye. But a little bit of fun there. So why don't you talk about how this all came together?
So this was a couple days after the pod because I missed most of that, but I was I had a lot of free time on Thursday evening into Thursday night, so I was discussing trades with a good chunk of teams, just trying to see what I could get because I was in the mood to make some moves. So I the one that involved the least discussion was Cardinals trade, because Ted doesn't talk to me normally on Discord. I believe the owner's name is Ted. I don't know for sure. Pretty sure it's Ted. That's more of I send offers and I wait for a response on that. And I sent that out earlier in the day, and then I was doing all kinds of other discussions, and that came through. It was, I don't know, well after midnight, and I was still up talking trades, and I saw that come through. I'm like, holy crap, that one worked. So then Colts and I were in discussion for a long period of time, back and forth. And when I was able to get Jaylen Warren, I felt better moving Khalil Herbert, and then that trade came together right after that. And then I ended up processing them at the same time as I had to pay for 2025 before I could do that one. But overall, I got the defensive end I needed for this year. I got my running back depth filled out a bit behind Bijan. And yeah, I feel really good about both of them. That being said, one other comment is I do value Josh Allen, the linebacker, very highly. I feel like if it would have been next year instead of this year and he was already classified as a defensive end, I would have wanted Allen over Kwity, but that might be a personal preference there. But I think he's a very good player.
Yeah, I agree. I like both of these, like, a lot.
Were you sad that you finally had to give up on John Johnson?
So I remember when I acquired John Johnson way back in the day from you, RJ. You traded him to me back when we could do the end of year extensions on cheap guys. I remember buying him back then and extending him on, off his 1 year deal.
Yep.
And he's been a good contributor since then. But he was the add-on that Colts wanted in the deal. And at that point, I've talked about in previous pods, like if somebody else wants a guy, he's not critical to your plans, just go ahead and say yes to it. So that is why he's in the deal. So it did hurt a little bit. Yeah. But Jalen, I'm excited about. I can't believe that one went through. I love his contract. He's like under $1 million, I think. I can extend him at the end of the year after he's played 2 full seasons. I've heard. Yes, really. He's sitting at 577,000. So as long as he's not a Pro Bowler, which if he is, I'm not going to care anyway, because that probably means I have a championship.
That means you went down and Giants is screwed.
So I've heard I liked watching the guy play in his limited opportunities last year, and he's had all glowing off-season reports. So I think a second is what was needed to get him based on other combos I heard from people trying to buy him. Hey, Giants.
Yeah, I'm just
still
shocked at the
fuming.
price, but
So I've been trying for a third plus. So it was like third plus like Kenny, third plus various like other running backs, and it was a no-go. So it did need to be a second, which was annoying, and I was holding out to not have to do that. And then now Chris won't trade him to me, so he has to trade him to Mike, so then I can get him then for a fair.
I was kind of shocked that he was like that price, but that seems like that was the going rate if he had offers for less than that, Cardinals. So
It's very weird.
Chris, if you're happy with it, then good trade.
Yeah, for sure. But from the Cardinals side, it's very weird to watch what he's done to his offense this offseason. Like, I know that he has Burrow and Jefferson coming up for extensions, but he didn't move anyone that was super expensive. And he just destroyed his running back room. And I don't know what his plans are, obviously. He's doing his own thing. But I don't know. It's just it's a unique end game.
Well, we're not sure what his end game is.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the Josh Allen Kwity Paye trade. Not really so much to do with the, player versus player and future edge, this, that, and the other. I just felt for a team like the Colts that doesn't have his 24 first, doesn't have his 25 first, Paye was really his only DN points he had going for him right now. And to move that for Allen doesn't do anything really to help him win games. At least I don't feel it does. Yeah, exactly. And, he doesn't have his pick next year either. So I really thought the best bet here was to just hold Paye, bet on Paye. He's a $2 million contract. You get to the trade deadline. You've made your 24 pick a little bit better than what you thought it was going to be. Or maybe use Paye in a deal with the Commanders if he wins some games to give him another DN, or I've simply felt the $2 million Paye could get you a lot more draft capital around trade deadline than a $11 million Josh Allen. So,
sure. I personally, I thought the biggest pieces moved here were the running backs, Gainwell and Herbert, because I know Colts loved the fact that he had, as he put it to me one day, the next Austin Eckler contract, and I was like, but he's not the same talent, so I don't know. But I mean, Herbert goes up to almost $7 million on extension. So it's a unique deal, but I do like it overall.
I don't know. A bunch of third string running backs don't really mean much to me versus starting defensive ends.
Well, Gainwell was the number one back in the playoffs for the Eagles. He outcarried.
And then
everyone
they
and
proceeded
had more
to add
touches.
Rashad Penny and
DeAndre Swift.
They're both flat.
Howie Roseman's very smart. You don't just sit around when you don't have a glaring strength. He goes and just gets more and more and more. Even his D tackles this last year, he went out and signed Sue and someone else when they already had Cox and Davis and everybody else they got in that room. So, we'll see how it plays out. Yeah.
All right.
What do you think, Mike? You haven't said anything.
He never does.
So I think the Warren trade is exactly like so many others that we've talked about, where it's he needed to wait for Cardinals was looking for a second for him, but kind of everyone else in the room thought it was going to be a third plus to get Warren. So it just seemed like he wasn't going to move because no one was paying the second, and he didn't want to budge off of the second round asking price. So based off of all the hype Warren's getting right now and the way Pittsburgh is going to have to score in that offense, I'd say it could very easily provide good payback on both the short and long term for you. But again, I still feel like the second's a little high right now, but I'm open to improving on there.
I guess how I rationalized it, like I think I didn't want to send a second, but I also didn't want to insult him with an opening offer. Would I take a third or 2/3 for Warren if I owned him on that contract? Probably not. And then if I looked at it from the perspective, like if I have Chase Brown or Tank Bigsby or someone in that range, would I put Warren right in that group of players talent wise, and they went on the first half of the second round this year. So me giving a 20-25 second seems like a lot, but that pick's not doing me any good right now with the state my team's in. So
that's how I get it. I completely understand the logic behind it. Just again, my valuation was different, but I completely understand why you make that deal. Again, from the Colts' point of view there, I appreciate him moving Pay off of his roster so I can once again bug another owner to try and get him back. But I mean, these are a lot of pieces that I've been offering for and or have had on my team recently. So I think at the end of the day, I'd rather have what Bengals got back, but considering I'd call it the influx of talent because of the rookies at the DN position, that there are cheaper options that might be able to get you a decent production at the edge position for cheaper. I love Quiddy, that being said, but it may be easier this year with the influx of rookies and Allen still being one of those last pass rusher linebackers that you can have to get what you get there. Plus Herbert now with that offense potentially fully stocked up could be in line for a really great year. But again, I don't dismiss the points around Gainwell. I think he's sort of the guy in line second that is going to be the most targeted in that Philadelphia offense. So it's close for me. I would still rather have what Chris got than what Colts got, but I don't hate either side. See, aren't you glad I made that vanilla take?
Yeah, very, very politically bland.
Yeah. 5 minutes of your life back. I'll start issuing refunds after the podcast. Speaking of players that were on my team before, the $16 million safety that I don't have, or I guess 14.3 in this case, Justin Simmons, moving from the Chiefs to the Panthers for Caden Ellis and a fifth. Of course, Tampa's third next year going with him. So something of a not so much cap done, but a swap of, I would still say a productive safety for and a third for a linebacker and a fifth.
Yeah, I thought that was fine with the third going back because in general, safety points do not equal linebacker points. So the picks to kind of downgrade there or upgrade, depending on what side you're looking at it, was needed. It's fine. Both those contracts suck.
Yeah, I'm also just not huge on Ellis because they've got so many linebackers in Atlanta, and Ellis isn't super athletic, and it took him forever to get kind of a starting role. So I don't really know how much he's going to do. And Justin Simmons, former All-Pro, I got a pick.
So basically, refund the third you had to pay in the Walker trade.
Yep.
All right. And then just to add some more content for the pod, two Broncos and Eagles trades here. Combined, it's Jelani Tavai, Naquan Jones, and Tier Tart for Javon Dexter, Chuck Clark, Rashawn Evans, and a fourth. So RJ picks up an injured guy and a yet to be signed guy and a 4th round pick for 2 productive DNs, D tackles, and Tavai, who again should be a productive linebacker for New England this year. But again, that entire linebacker room screams more rotation to me at the moment. But Tavai should at least score and be reliable for scoring.
I already cut Chuck Clark.
I just saw that.
But yeah, I get a young defensive tackle instead of a player that I probably would have just gotten rid of for basically nothing, and his backup. I take a small cap hit, and I get Evans, who hopefully signs soon, and I can recoup some value out of, and a pick. Hooray!
Why was it 2 trades?
Because we were discussing the second one like separately. If I had just been like 20-minute patience, it would have been one thing.
More context for the pod.
Right.
Why did you cut Chuck Clark?
Because he tore his ACL. He's out for the year. And like
Yes.
$9 million.
Did he only have? You could have IR'd him during the year. He's got.
Yeah, but I didn't want to wait. I couldn't put him on IR right now, and like he's old, so like
He's 28.
yeah,
Yeah, he's
Nobody's-
28. He'll be
He's a
29. Yeah.
right,
Every 29 at the start of next season.
right. Nobody's gonna really want him after a catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
Well, we have another good safety class next year, and there's always good safeties on free agency.
All right.
So, yeah.
The downside with his injury is he doesn't actually have a contract after this season. He's on his last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just take the cap hit this year when it doesn't really matter to me.
Or who knows? Someone might claim him.
Hopefully,
I mean, Pats needs some warm bodies on the roster.
Those are going to be all like day before week 1 kickoff.
yeah. There you go, Pat's guaranteed to score 0 all year.
Everybody's getting cut. All right. 53 minutes, which again, considering we spent about 20 minutes talking about another league and just trades, I'd say is pretty good for went here. So again, I appreciate everyone who joined, helping out with the Game of Thrones League. I'll post this for them so they can get our feedback here. Again, I think they'll appreciate that. Well, maybe except for the team who lost Wilson and Etienne in the theft. But, sometimes this is what you need to hear to make sure you don't make the mistake again. 6 complete strangers mocking you on a podcast that you had no idea existed. So if nothing else, hey, it's his claim to fame. I was the topic of a podcast. Anyways, we'll get to the fun part here. Appreciate everyone joining. Appreciate everyone listening. And let the fun continue.